A raging inferno, nature's fury unleashed. The air crackles with an ominous heat. Acrid smoke blots out the sun, turning day into an eerie twilight. Flames, towering hundreds of feet high, devour all in their path. This is the terrifying reality of America's wildfires, a scene of devastation becoming increasingly frequent. From the dense forests of California to the windswept plains of the West, infernos rage, leaving behind scorched earth and shattered lives. The roar of the firestorm drowns out the screams of fleeing wildlife, a symphony of destruction echoing across the land. These are not just wildfires, they are climate catastrophes fueled by our inaction and denial. The American West, once a symbol of rugged beauty, now often resembles a battleground. The enemy is not a foreign army, but a force of nature amplified by our changing climate. These megafires are unprecedented in their ferocity and scope, challenging our ability to fight back. They spread with terrifying speed, driven by high winds and fueled by drought-stricken vegetation. Communities vanish in a maelstrom of fire and ash, leaving behind only memories and the faintest hope of rebuilding. The devastating toll counting the costs of America's wildfires. The numbers paint a grim picture of the devastation. Millions of acres reduced to ash, billions of dollars in economic losses, homes, businesses, and entire communities erased from the map. The 2018 Camp Fire in California, the deadliest and most destructive in the state's history, alone claimed 85 lives and destroyed nearly 19,000 structures. The financial cost of that single fire exceeded $16 billion. But the true toll of these disasters goes far beyond dollars and cents. It is measured in the shattered lives of survivors, the loss of irreplaceable ecosystems, and the long-term health consequences of smoke inhalation. The human cost is immeasurable. Families are torn apart, forced to flee their homes with only the clothes on their backs. Firefighters risk their lives battling the flames, often working for days on end with little rest. The emotional scars of surviving such an ordeal can last a lifetime. Beyond the immediate impact, the long-term consequences are equally alarming. Wildfires release massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, exacerbating the very climate change that fuels them. The destruction of forests and other ecosystems disrupts natural carbon sinks, further accelerating global warming. Trump's blazing legacy, fanning the flames of denial and inaction. During his presidency, Donald Trump repeatedly downplayed the role of climate change in fueling these catastrophic wildfires. He dismissed scientific consensus, claiming that it'll start getting cooler, you just watch, and suggesting that the solution was simply to rake the forests. His administration rolled back environmental regulations, promoted fossil fuel extraction, and withdrew the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement, a global effort to combat climate change. These actions, driven by short-sighted economic interests and a disregard for scientific evidence, have had dire consequences for America's forests and the communities that depend on them. Trump's rhetoric and policies had a chilling effect on efforts to address the root causes of the wildfire crisis. His denial of climate science emboldened those who prioritize profit over environmental protection. His administration's efforts to silence government scientists and suppress information about the climate crisis further hindered progress. By the time he left office, the United States had lost valuable time in the fight against climate change, and the consequences were becoming increasingly evident in the form of more frequent and intense wildfires. Section 4. Stories from the Ashes. When Wildfires Touch the Stars. The human face of this tragedy is perhaps best illustrated through the stories of those directly affected. Celebrities, often seen as living lives detached from the everyday realities of most Americans, found themselves confronting the same terror as countless others. When the Woolsey Fire swept through Malibu in 2018, Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth lost their home, sharing their heartbreak on social media and pledging to rebuild. Their story resonated with millions, highlighting the indiscriminate nature of these disasters. Actor Gerard Butler, whose home was also destroyed in the Woolsey fire, shared a poignant image of himself standing amidst the ruins. "Returned to my house in Malibu after evacuating," he wrote on Instagram. "Heartbreaking time across California, inspired as ever by the courage, spirit, and sacrifice of firefighters." These personal accounts, shared with millions of followers, humanized the tragedy and brought the urgency of the situation into sharp focus. Section 5. A Race Against Time Survivor Tales from the Fire Lines. Beyond the headlines, the testimonies of everyday survivors paint a harrowing picture of the speed and ferocity of these wildfires. It was like something out of a horror movie, recounted one survivor of the campfire. "The fire was moving so fast we barely had time to grab our kids and get out." Another survivor described the terrifying experience of being trapped in their car as flames engulfed the road on all sides. "It felt like the end of the world," she said. "I honestly didn't think we were going to make it out alive." These first-hand accounts underscore the terrifying reality of living in fire-prone areas. They speak to the need for better preparedness, early warning systems, and community resources to help residents cope with the increasing threat of wildfires. But most importantly, they serve as a stark reminder that climate change is not a distant threat. It is a clear and present danger, and we are all living with its consequences. Section 6. The Urgency of Now, Confronting the Climate Crisis, Head-On. The connection between climate change and the increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires is undeniable. Rising global temperatures, prolonged droughts, and changes in wind patterns have created a tinderbox-like environment in many parts of the American West. Scientific evidence overwhelmingly points to human activity, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, as the primary driver of these changes. Yet, despite the overwhelming scientific consensus, climate change remains a politically charged issue, often met with denial and inaction. The time for debate is long over. We need swift and decisive action to address the climate crisis and mitigate the risk of future wildfire disasters. This requires a multi-pronged approach that includes transitioning to clean energy sources, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, investing in forest management practices that reduce fire risk, and supporting communities on the front lines of this crisis. Failure to act now will have catastrophic consequences for generations to come. Section 7. Our Shared Responsibility, Protecting Our Planet, Preserving Our Future. Addressing climate change is a shared responsibility that extends beyond governments and policymakers. It requires the active participation of every individual. Each of us can make daily choices to reduce our carbon footprint, such as using public transportation, carpooling, conserving energy at home, and supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability. Additionally, we can advocate for action from our elected officials and hold them accountable for their environmental policies. The future of our planet hinges on our collective willingness to confront this challenge directly. We must act with urgency and determination to address the climate crisis, protect our communities from the increasing threat of wildfires, and ensure a livable planet for future generations. The time for complacency has passed. The time for decisive action is now.